As winter's chill begins to recede and the days grow longer, it's time to bid farewell to winter's stark beauty and welcome the vibrant rebirth of spring. So we've been to the store to grab some little seedlings to start our much anticipated garden. So we've grabbed some Italian parsley and some red Russian kale, and we've got some rosemary, a different kind than we already have, so that's good. And we've grabbed some nasturtiums as well for some summer salads and things like that. I did have a full planned out companion planting kind of guide for my 4 different raised garden beds, but because we didn't have everything that I wanted to go in them, my plans have to change a little bit, unfortunately. So we'll just have to work with what we can get. So we've got some red spinach there as well, and we've got some bok choy as well. Some spring onions, some bunching shallots, and some brown onions. I'm not sure if I'm even going to be able to tell the difference between these 3 when they get in the ground. There's something truly special about getting our hands dirty and watching these seedlings transform into a thriving garden oasis. But first we have to get rid of someone who has decided to go to sleep on the raised garden beds that we want to plant today.
What are you doing there, puppy? Hey, hey, off, 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 come on, get off the garden bed. Puppy.
So in our first bed, we decided to put in some parsley, nasturtiums, and some bok choy. And in the second one, we're doing potatoes. In the third one, we're doing the kale and bunching shallots. And in the last one, we're doing the red spinach and the spring onions, the brown onions, and the rosemary. So let's see how we go. So we've got 6 bok choy to plant here, and it's also known as Chinese cabbage or pak choy in different places, and I've got 6 of them here. If anyone knows how to get these to slide out more easily or knows a trick, I'm definitely not experienced in this, so I'm just doing the best that I can here. But these are lovely greens for stir fries and all sorts of things. So I guess bok choy prefers cool weather, so that's really great because we have a lot of cool weather here, and they can tolerate some shade, but they also thrive in full sun. So we need to make sure the soil is well draining and rich in organic matter for these as well. They're meant to be planted about 15 centimetres apart from each other. They like their soil consistently moist but not waterlogged. And you also need to make sure that soil doesn't dry out completely. And they do also appreciate regular fertilisation as well. And so basically you just wait until their leaves are the size that you need, typically around 15 to 20 centimetres tall, and you just use a sharp knife or scissors to cut the leaves at the base, leaving the roots in the soil. Or you can harvest the entire plant as well if you want to. It's a fast-growing crop, and it's best when it matures in cool weather. In hot weather it may bolt or go to seed quickly, so we might have to eat this quicker than the rest of the plants in the garden. If you're new here, welcome. We're an Australian family that live off-grid in Australia, nestled far from the bustling cities and their constant hum. We've embraced a life off the grid, finding solace and purpose in the rhythms of the natural world. We recently had a wildfire go through the whole property and everything was black, but now it's all green again, a testament to nature's resilience. And our plants in the garden that I thought might have died from the frost seem to be springing back to life again. So I'm putting the Italian parsley here on this side next to the bok choy. And as I said, I had a whole plan about companion planting in these garden beds, but that's just all gone out the window. So now I'm just making it up as I go along. But I'm not sure whether bok choy and parsley go well together, but let's give it a go. So Italian parsley is known as flat leaf parsley, and it likes well draining soil and prefers a location with partial to full sunlight. It can tolerate some shade, especially when it's really hot. These seedlings are meant to be planted about 15 centimetres apart. I think I planted them about 10 centimetres apart, but we'll see how they go. So parsley prefers consistently moist soil, but it's also important not to overwater them as it can lead to root rot. It's good to water them deeply when the top inch of soil feels dry. So once these parsley plants get a bit bigger, we can start to harvest them just by cutting off the leaves as you need them, but it's important not to remove more than 1/3 of the plant at a time. And pruning actually encourages new growth for parsley. So I planted the nasturtiums in there behind the bok choy because bok choy and nasturtiums grow well together because the nasturtiums actually repel aphids, which is a common pest for bok choy. So planting your nasturtiums near your bok choy can help deter these aphids and also other pests. The nasturtiums are wonderful for their vibrant flowers and edible leaves and flowers. They prefer full sun, but they can tolerate partial shade, and they like well draining soil. And overly fertile soil can actually result in less flowers. We had to wait until we had our last frost before we could plant these, and the last frost was only a couple of weeks ago. And they're also meant to be planted about 15-20 centimetres apart, but I think I've done them about 10 centimetres, so we'll see how it goes. So in this bed, the parsley and the nasturtiums don't really like too much fertiliser, but the bok choy does like a little bit, so hopefully we'll be able to keep that under control. So with the nasturtiums, if you prune them regularly, that can encourage more flowers as well. So you're meant to pinch back the tips of the plants to promote more branching as well. And also picking off the dead flowers or deadheading will also help the blooming period be prolonged. So you can eat the leaves and the flowers of the nasturtiums, and they have a peppery flavour that can be used in salads or as garnishes. So you just harvest the leaves and flowers as needed through the growing season, and the younger leaves tend to have a mild flavour. The nasturtiums usually self-seed as well, and their colourful blooms and edible parts make them a favourite. But they can also serve as a natural pest deterrent for other nearby plants. So we're using the pea straw mulch to for a few different reasons. One of them is the weed suppression. So that layer over the top of the soil helps smother any weeds that might be trying to grow through by blocking the sunlight and preventing these weed seeds from germinating. It also helps with the moisture retention, so it acts as a barrier to stop evaporation from the soil, so helps retain the moisture underneath. It's really important in hot and dry climates to have this, and it can reduce the need for frequent watering, which is really good for our property because we collect rainwater and we don't have a lot of water to spare or to waste. The mulch also regulates temperature, so it ensures that the soil temperature is protected from extreme heat or cold, and this can create a more stable environment for the plant roots, which might be quite sensitive. It also contributes to soil improvement. So as the pea straw mulch breaks down over time, and it can contribute organic matter to the soil, improving the soil structure and the microbial activity. Looks like Truffles has found another inappropriate place to have a sleep on the open fire pit. What are you doing on the fire, Poppy? That's not normal. Just saying. It's probably still warm there on the fire pit, but she's going to be very messy after this. What are you doing there? Anyway, the mulch also helps with the pest and disease control, can act as a bit of a physical barrier so that it can keep some pests away from your plants a little bit as well. So, and it also might help improve the quality of the vegetables or the whatever you're growing as well. So I'm just growing some or planting some half potatoes in this garden bed, and I've seen a lot that you really should dry the potato out for a while after you've cut it in half before you plant it to prevent rotting and mold and that sort of thing. So I'm not sure how I'm going to go with this, having just cut the potatoes in half and planting them straight away. So each potato piece that I planted had at least one eye or bud in each half. So let's see how we go. We also watered it, and we'll put some mulch on top as well, but potatoes don't like to be waterlogged, so we need to make sure that we're watering it a couple of times a week, but also making sure that it's not too wet. So when the potato plants are about 15-20 centimeters tall again, that's the time to start to harvest. Usually I think it takes about 100 days for potatoes to be ready. So when the potatoes are ready, you should also notice that the plants have flowered and the plant is starting to go yellow and dying back. And you can use a garden fork or a spade to gently dig up the potatoes, being careful not to damage them. And when you dig your potatoes out, you should cure them. So you let them sit in a cool, dark and well-ventilated place for about 2 weeks. Hopefully we'll have some potatoes that we grew ourselves for Christmas. So I'm just planting the kale in this third garden bed, and I'm not a big fan of kale, but kale is a good cold hardy plant, and it's also very nutritious, and I really need some good greens for my son, who's got just been diagnosed or just discovered that he is one of 4 worldwide cases of a particular blood disorder. So there's not a lot of information about it, but he does need a lot of green leafy vegetables in his diet. And this is the red spinach, which is really colourful and beautiful and will also be very nutritious for our diet as well. Red spinach is also known as Chinese spinach as well, I think. So basically it needs at least 6 hours of sunlight per day, and it likes well-drained soil. They should also be planted about 15 centimetres apart, and you can start harvesting the leaves about 6 weeks after planting. So I'm planting the red spinach with the brown onions because apparently they grow well together. The onions apparently provide shade to the leafy greens and help them from bolting or going to seed too quickly in hot weather. And the onions may also deter some pests that may affect these greens. So because this is our first real attempt of a veggie garden out here, we haven't had plants previously to get the seeds from or to use to grow the garden. So we've had to get all these seedlings, but hopefully next time we'll be able to use the seeds and whatnot from our garden that we've already established, hopefully. Some of you may have seen our terrible attempt at transplanting this avocado tree from its pot. We nearly killed it, but it's still alive. And this is our new lemon tree that we replaced the one that died. So hopefully this one will come along nicely. It's got some buds and stuff already. And then we pruned back our lavender and it's starting to come back as well now. Our olive tree is looking quite healthy and we need to get that out into the ground. So we're going to dig a hole for that one pretty soon. And the bees buzz excitedly around the blossoming flowers on our rosemary, and the air is filled with such sweet scents of citruses and herbs. Our lemon verbena is coming back nicely after the frost in the winter. A few of our rosemary cuttings are starting to take, and we've got some stinging nettle there that we're going to use for tea soon. Some of the rosemary cuttings look like they're dying, but that's okay. We got some that look successful, so that's good. And my mum gave us this amazing mulberry cutting. The tree that she had behind her place is just full of berries. It looks so yummy. And so today the boys are using the ride-on mower and an old plough that Eli and his friends dug up from the property to try to make a little area for me to grow my sunflower seeds. So the ground here is so hard because there's never really been a garden here, and it makes it really difficult to dig up the ground. It's a big job. So I've got two varieties of sunflower seeds here to grow, but both of them prefer that you've dug up the ground for at least 20 centimeters down. I don't think that's going to be achievable here, so I'm not sure how well these sunflowers are going to go. The last sunflowers I planted in Armidale, like a long time ago, were really, really successful, but I had dug up the ground quite deeply. So I'm not sure whether these will be successful. We'll see. So I've got two types of sunflowers, as I said. One is the Golden Prominence, which is the one that's really tall, like 1.5 meters tall. And the other one is the Double Delight Sunflower, which is a lot smaller and bushier, apparently. I do have a few concerns about planting the sunflowers here, and that is that this is a really high wind area, so the tall ones will probably need to be staked pretty early on so that they don't get knocked over. And the other issue is just making sure the wildlife doesn't get to them. But other than that, it's a brilliant place because it gets a lot of full sun, and obviously the sunflowers love the sun. So when you plant your sunflower seeds, you need to make sure that they're kept consistently moist during the germination phase, which usually takes about 7 to 10 days. And once they're established and they have developed their strong root system, then they're relatively drought tolerant. And you just need to water deeply when the soil is dry. I'm so excited about watching these sunflowers grow and develop into these beautiful yellow flowers. Such a beautiful flower. And then, of course, you can actually use the sunflower seeds to eat if you like as well. So sunflowers typically bloom about 100 days or between 70 and 100 days after planting. So you harvest the sunflowers when they are fully open and the back of the flower head turns yellow or brown. So you cut the stem below the flower head and remove any leaves. You hang the sunflowers upside down to dry, and then you can save the seeds for planting or as a snack. To save the sunflower seeds, you should allow for the flower head to fully dry on the plant. Once the seeds are dry, rub them out of the flower head and store them in a cool, dry place. So we've just added some soil that we bought into the little trench that we've dug, and I'm just adding 2 sunflower seeds in each spot, about 15 to 30 centimeters apart from each other. So if both the seedlings come up in the same spot, you're supposed to thin them out. So now we just need to give the sunflower seeds a good water after we've just covered them over with some soil, and we need to keep them watered for the germination period until they're well established. So at the moment we've only got watering cans to use, but Paul's going to hopefully hook up a tap to the rainwater tank so that we can use a hose to start watering our garden, since we've got a lot more plants on the go now that it's spring. So here's Paul fixing the tap so that we can get, like, I don't know what it's called, but like a double adapter on it, so that we can have one going to the shower and one going to the hose for the garden. So that's pretty exciting. How civilized. I think the proper name for them might be a 2-way threaded tap. I'm not sure. But anyway, this is going to make gardening and watering the garden so much easier. Gardening isn't just about the end result, it's about the journey and the connection to garden. So whether you have a few pots or on your balcony or an entire acre to play with, get out there and start planting. It's good for the soul, and it's a delicious way to cut through the noise of the world. So thanks for joining us on this gardening adventure. Until next time, keep digging, keep planting, and keep finding your peace in the garden.